And we're on. Okay, hey, welcome everybody to the Pennsylvania State AFERD massive online open course, also known as a MOOC. I'm Todd Bedard. I'm the past president of Pennsylvania AFERD. And for those of you that joined us at convention this year, you got to see George Kuros and a lot of other great presenters. So thank you very much for joining us there. Co-host Jessica Piccone-Cook with us tonight. She's also our executive director. And we have a very special guest with us tonight. To start off this massive online open course from Slippery Rock University, Dr. Randy Nichols. When we said we wanted to do this, we wanted to talk about innovation in the fields of health and physical education. And there's no better guest to start this whole process with than Randy. He has really changed the way teacher prep is going at the university level. And he's doing some really innovative and creative things with how they prepare their teachers to teach health and physical education out in the real world. So I'd like to turn it over to Randy Nichols to introduce himself, tell you a little bit about himself, and then Jessica will start off the night. So Randy, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Randy Nichols. I'm in my 27th year of teaching, and 5 of those were with Penn State University and their system, and then 22 of them at Slippery Rock. I spent 6 years as the department chair, and this past half of year, I've taken over the coordinator position of our teacher ed program, which we now call School Wellness Education, but it's our certification program for teacher education and health and phys ed. And I'll talk a little bit more about what school wellness is later. My hobbies, my interests used to be endurance training, and well, they used to be sports. Then it went to endurance training. Now it's just outdoor physical activities. I enjoy being outdoors and doing things physically active. And probably the last thing I would say, that what keeps me grounded and what keeps me as informed as anyone in terms of what's happening in schools, because sometimes folks in universities lose the feel or the heartbeat of what's happening in schools, is I eat dinner every evening with a young lady who's a K-7 health and phys ed teacher. And it's my wife. And then my brother, who's my best friend in the world besides my wife, is a K-2 health and phys ed teacher. And he's a former teacher of the year in the state. So I feel like I kind of have the heartbeat of what's happening in schools, although I don't get to spend every day in a school. That's me.
Well, Randy, as a Slippery Rock alumni, it seems like I was there 2 years ago. It's been much longer than that. But give us a brief overview of some of the changes that have been made that you've seen at Slippery Rock from the things that you've implemented with your team up there.
So a brief overview would be 6.5 years ago, Slippery Rock, like many other teacher ed programs, are still going through, but it started about 6.5, 7 years ago. There was a drastic enrollment issue. So we probably wouldn't have made this change. I'm not sure. I have thought about it. I don't know if we would have made this change if the enrollment hadn't gone the way that it did. And we had Dr. Steve Jeffries come and visit us in August of 2011. PE 2020 was going on then. What should PE look like when it's, in the year 2020? He was then president of NASPE, and he was kind of leading that charge. We had him come and visit us. And basically what we took away from that message was we're in a lot of trouble. As an organization, AFERD, as an organization, NASPE, and as a profession. The takeaway message we had from that entire day was he showed a slide towards the end of all of these careers that once existed and now have gone away. And, he showed a slide of the health and phys ed positions across the country that have gone away. So that made us think that maybe we need to think about something new, not only to survive and save our own program, but to also maybe try to be a leader in what the profession could be. So in a nutshell, we have gone from what most people think of as a traditional health and phys ed program. I spent one summer looking at as many teacher ed programs as I could across all 50 states to see if anybody had something unique or different. And there was nothing. We were all the same. The one at Slippery Rock was exactly the same as everybody else across the country. And so that's what started us. And we are much more centered around the health, the wellness, well-being, and self-care of the student and what they need to be college, career, and life ready. That's what our program is geared towards, preparing K-12 graduates who are college, career, and life ready in terms of their own self-care and well-being.
Can you just touch on kind of the process for that? Because you're not the only member of the faculty up there. So you had a whole team of faculty members that all these changes had to go through. Just that process of how you all work together to go from point A to point B and on into the future.
Yeah, it was, it took 5 years to do it. And it started with a random meeting, a random run-in I had with a friend of mine who's a business person. And I started kicking some ideas around with him. I knew a couple of things about him. I knew he cherished his own health and wellness. I knew he was a school board member, so he kind of understood schools a little bit. I knew that he had daughters in schools, and I knew that he had taken some companies and really, really made them successful. So I just ran it by him, and his exact verbiage, and this sometimes offends some people, so I don't want to offend anybody, but his verbiage was, when I started explaining to him what we were thinking about doing, he said, "Randy, you're putting lipstick on a pig." And he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, but phys ed is that right now." He said, "You can't put lipstick on it, fix it. You got to start all over." So the process was me going and talking to him and his team of who helps him, and they sent me on a book study and sent our group on a book study to read these books in succession to figure out this process. And then it was just us in a room hashing out what we thought we could be passionate about, because that's one of the 3 main things, is you as a person and as a group have to be passionate about it, what we felt we could be really good at, and then what society really, really needed. And that took a long time. That's a hedgehog from the Good to Great book. But once we figured that out, things started to fall in place a little bit more. But yeah, there was a lot of disagreement. There were some folks, I'll be honest, there's some folks still who aren't completely on board, who still believe in a sport model. Their education's in a sport model. They grew up in a sport model. Their degrees are all in a sport model, and it's hard. But every day they see more and more, and when they see our students succeed, I think that helps even more. It's not that they're against what we're doing. It's just hard to, if you take somebody who's lived their whole life and done all their research and all their training in something, and then something, it's just change is really, really hard. So it's not that they're against it. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, it's a learning process for sure.
Right, absolutely.
I think some of it could be. You think some of it's because I've kind of thought about this. We've done some similar changes at our school when revamped our curriculum. We kind of blew up secondary education at our high school and created something which is maybe something for another time without taking up your time. But sometimes I find like some of the things that we ask teachers to do in this change is something that's completely foreign to them, that maybe they don't have the skills to do that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So do you feel like that's where some of the resistance is coming from, that lack of a skill set?
Absolutely. That is it for sure. Their skill set, and they're so, they're PhDs in a certain area, and they are the experts in that area. And now all of a sudden we're saying, hey, we're going to do this. So for example, I'm teaching a social emotional health and wellness class this semester. I needed to retrain myself. I needed to update myself. I needed to do a lot. So that's absolutely it. And just confidence level and feeling as though they could and should be able to do it. But as they get success, and that's when they see their students having success and they see that they can do it, then all of a sudden the energy starts to grow for them. And what's really cool is when they come up with new ideas and they say, yeah, and we should be doing this. That's, but yeah, it's a long process.
Well, yeah. And then essentially, like when they start coming up with the ideas, that's when I guess they feel fully empowered to really help you take that to the next level. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think there is a very small number of people that work as a part of a team or a faculty in a school district that have total 100% buy-in from everybody. And I think the challenging that you get from, any adversity that comes from that is how you grow as a department and how you work through those things.
One of the things, Randy, that first stuck out to me too, that when I listened to you first speak about this, is that you said when prospective students come talk to you and you ask them what they want to do, and they say they want to be a coach, you tend to try to steer them maybe a different way. How has that worked for you, and has it in fact hurt numbers? I mean, because honestly, at the bottom line, university is a business, and in that business, we need numbers to for sustainability, to pay salaries, to pay electric bills, etc. And has that hurt your numbers? And have you gotten pushback from your administration?
The only real pushback I've received anywhere on any of this stuff is from current teachers. And actually, I was a speaker at up in Girard, or up in General McLean, and I said some things that ruffled some people's feathers, and I still stand by it. And I should back up. I'm a former high school athlete, former college athlete, former college coach, former college athletic director. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go watch the championship game. I love sport. Okay? But this opportunity that I think is in our society right now is not for us to be coaches and sports people. It's to be health and wellness people. Now, sport could be one of the vehicles that gets us there, but there are so many other vehicles. But when we are only about sport and we're only a coach, and our visual, our makeup, what we wear to work, we have a whistle and we look like a coach, we are a coach, we let people call us coach, then we're a coach. And when you're a coach, then you are linked to sport. And when you're linked to sport, you lose a lot of people. I'm no longer the department chair. So prospective students don't come to meet with me anymore. They meet with Dr. Joanne Light. But in my classes and when I meet with my advisees, and when Joe asked me to meet with some students, I have that same message. And most of our faculty have that same message. We haven't lost any students. It would be hard to lose students. We've lost so many students over the last 8 years. We went from having 400 to 90. So it would be hard, but we're not really looking at it in terms of the short term. We're looking at it in terms of the long term. And we're not even looking at in terms of making this change in terms of the current practicing teachers. We're looking at making the change with the current students that we have now that are in our program, and them going out and doing it. So we don't really worry about whether we lose anybody, because we think in the long run, maybe not in my career, but in Hannah and some of our younger faculties, they will thrive in terms of enrollment, because people will flock to Slippery Rock because they want to be a part of that type of program. So to answer your question, I don't think we've lost, maybe a couple, but nothing significant. And in the bottom line, if that's what that person wanted to do, and they didn't really have a passion to be a teacher, we don't want them to be a teacher anyway. So yeah, but it's hard, because you're right. Education is a business, and our administration, if they watch this, they might know they don't really know that we're doing that. But they believe in our mission. They believe in our vision. They believe in our mission. Our former president was started in health and phys ed, and she supported it wholeheartedly. She got out of health and phys ed after her student teaching in the secondary level, because she said, I can't do this. I don't know what this is, but I can't do this the rest of my life, whatever this is. So she never even followed the path. She, like many other people, jumped to exercise science and got her master's degree in that.
So to continue on with that line of thinking with admin too, one of the things that I believe strongly, just from my own research and listening to you and digging deeper with other people as well, is I think college, the college experience as a whole maybe needs to look at itself and change. Specifically, like, I'll just throw this at you, like the quote unquote grade 13, the freshman gen eds, because I just look back at my own experience, and I listen to kids who come back and visit me that are former students, who talk about, like, for example, nothing against social studies, but it was the hardest subject I had because I just didn't like it. I didn't gravitate to it. And I took my college history class, and I haven't used it since the day I walked out that first semester of my freshman year. What are your thoughts on changing the college experience from more of a, instead of grade 13 to more of this focus?
It's funny you said that, because Slippery Rock is in the process of changing its what we call liberal studies right now. And They had an election for faculty to run to be on this committee. I ran, I'm on it, and we are completely changing it. Completely.
Wow.
It's going to be, you take a foundations course that is geared around the university professor's interest area. So it could be on, and people are going to laugh, it could be on Harry Potter, it could be on the Brooklyn Bridge, it could be something that, but during that class, the professor's job is to use that venue, that topic, to develop critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity, the 4 C's during that class. And then to link why it's so important that you be a critical thinker, a collaborative worker, a creative worker, and you communicate clearly. Then from there, the student takes 18 credits of foundational work, and from there, they pick their path. They can pick a path linked to the brain. They can pick a path linked to their health and wellness. They can take a path linked to internationalism. They can take a path, and all the classes are linked to that. So they're invested. They picked what they wanted to do and learn more about globalization, et cetera. So we think we're on the right path of doing just what you said. Make it relevant to them or what they need in the world to succeed.
Well, to be college, career, and life ready.
Right. Yep.
So, jumping back over to your program and what you're all doing, the students that you've had in recent history who have graduated and who have gone out into the world, how do you prepare them for some of the adversity that they're going to see if they run into an old school program, or they run into somebody that's not willing to change, or they just want to keep doing what they've been doing because it's what they've always done?
Okay, great question. And this was part of our process. I'm going to put my cheaters on to read here a little bit to make sure I get this, although it is in my head because we spent so much time working on it. Our program is built on 5 pillars. And the first one is excellent teaching. So we're going to create excellent teachers. And there's a cohort of classes that are all geared towards creating excellent teachers. That's your methods classes, that's your field experience classes, that's your student teaching, etc. The second pillar is physical health and wellness. So it's all about preparing our students to deliver physical health and wellness. And in our program, that's called Living Well. And there's a lot of components to that. I don't have to get into that now. If we want to later, we can. The third one is social, emotional, cognitive, and creative health and wellness, which is completely new. The social and emotional part's not so new, but the cognitive and creative piece is new. And how do we develop cognitive and creative health and wellness in our students and get them to feel, not only our students, but prepare them to deliver that? Then the fourth pillar is seeing the school as the venue to rebuild the health and wellness of our society. So it's called, the pillar is called school to community health and wellness, but we want to work with the hospitals, the YMCAs, but we want people to see the school as a venue that we can rebuild health and wellness, not just the gym and the health classroom, but the entire school. So that's the whole school concept. But the last pillar, and this addresses your question, Jess, is professionalism, advocacy, and leadership. Because we know that in order for these people to go out there and make this change that we hope will happen, they truly need to be professionals, advocates, and leaders. And I'm going to blow the Slippery Rock horn a little bit here, but we had a fantastic contingent of students at the last state convention, which is on the other side of the state. We normally don't get that many. We had a number of them there. And
we put them to work.
Yeah, working, they're invested, they're engaged. And for the little short period of time I was there, I had a number of people stop me and tell me, wow, those students they're amazing. They look great. They act great. They're just, so I think it's working. I really think what we're trying to, so we also, along those lines, we've created this little steps to success that breaks down everything that we think they should be doing outside of the classroom, their freshman year, then their sophomore year, then their junior year, and then their senior year. And there's 10 bullets in each year of what they should be doing to create that professional advocate leader who's going to go out there. And when the old school teacher tells them that this isn't, that they feel strong enough, that they are empowered to know, hey, I'm going to be the leader. We harp to them that they need to be the Tim McCords. They need to be the Dave Schmitz. They need to be the Todd Bedards, the people, things happen at a school because usually one person pushes it, and then it starts to happen. Tim McCord was at in Titusville. Dave was at North Allegheny. Todd's that. And there's a number of them at every school. There's one, and we're preparing them to be that one person in that school, and then people will fall in line. So we're working at it. We know that it's a big piece of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Randy, when I first heard you talk about this, I mean, we were kind of starting and on our way to changing the game, but really what resonated with me is you changing teachers and having them come out to me. Kind of inspired me to say, hey, you know what, if I get a Slippery Rock teacher at my school, I want to have a program for them where they can take those ideas that they're learning and expand on it. And I think one of the passions for me as my presidential year here at PSA, for because of what you're doing, is we need to share that message with other professionals and other department leaders so that we can change teachers that are coming out into the field, but the whole profession as a whole. Because I believe this with everything that I am. I think secondary physical education is an endangered species if it doesn't change the game. If we don't get rid of the bag of balls and the pennies and the coach and the whole vibe of sport education, endangered. And I mean, there's a lot of great things going on. So
I got an email today from an assistant superintendent wanting to know what the state requirement is for secondary health and PE, because they want to go to whatever the minimum is. They want to do that. So I asked them why, and they said all they do is pick up a ball and play mat ball. So this school is doing more. They have health and PE every other day. They could be doing so much. For 3 years, they have it every other day, A and B days, and they just said enough. We're not doing this anymore. So
yeah.
You're right. I think
it's so sad, because when you think about it, a lot of the most prominent experiences in your memory from your K to 12 time in school is your secondary. So a lot of the memories that people have of their phys ed experience, they knew they had fun in elementary school, but some of those things that happen in high school really stand out. I just finished my master's degree, and at my internship, I worked at a facility with adults that just needed and were never taught basics, how to take care of yourself. How much should I be exercising? What should I be eating? How do I manage stress? And they all had health and phys ed, So it was very telling getting to talk with a lot of these clients and watch them struggle with things as an adult, and knowing how hard these changes were to make there. I mean, I've seen it with my own dad, so it's a difficult thing. And if we can get these kids when they're at a younger age and make every experience they have in K to 12 a valuable and a worthwhile and an educational one, I mean, the sky's the limit for what they're going to achieve in the future. They're going to live a lot longer, a lot healthier, and you can't be your best when you're not your healthiest. So I'm hopeful for the future. When you hear those stories and that there's a lot of things that need change, there's also a lot of good out there, and we need to find those individuals that are out there doing these wonderful things and get them to share it and join and network with other teachers. So, that becomes the norm now.
No, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Jessica. And I just think we need to find it. Randy, let me ask you this: when you got that call from that superintendent, was he receptive to potentially retraining those teachers? Because I mean, sadly, I'd hate to see them just minimize it because the teachers are doing what they're supposed to. But could somebody, whoever it would be, who understands the process, go in and help repurpose their program?
It was an email that I got, and I haven't responded yet, because that's going to be my response, is to see if they wouldn't be willing to work with us, partner with us, allow us to come down. We've done some training for Deer Lakes, North Hills. We're going down to work with Dave at North Allegheny a little bit. So we're slowly, or Slippery Rock. So we've got this little training package we're putting together that kind of helps with what we're doing at Slippery Rock. So I'm gonna propose that. Let's talk about what you could be doing, because the other part of that is what frustrates me is, why are the administrators letting them do that?
Right.
They're the administrators, and you have assessment and evaluation that you have to do of your teachers. So why are you allowing it to happen? If this isn't what you want to have happen, then change that. So that's what I'm going to.
Yeah. Would you do that with a student? Like, if you have a student that's struggling, do you say, sorry, the school's not for you. We're just going to cut this down and give you the bare minimum? You know, it's a oxymoron, you know, it's
So I started to write my response and then just sat on it and going to reflect on it a little bit, because if my first response was I was mad.
Yeah.
So I was going to sit on it for a little bit and then respond like, we want to help you. Let's all win here and we'll help you. So yeah.
I'm the same. I'm thinking right now, I'm like, I have like 5 paragraphs and 4 of them are anger. I'd really like to write it because it'd be cathartic, you know, just to get it all out there, and then we'll professionalize it and make it work for them.
That's why when I always use Microsoft Word if I have to write an email like that, so I don't accidentally hit send.
That's what I do. Honestly, in all the years, like if you get those every now and then you get those nasty grams from parents or something that upsets you, and we're all human, so my exact way of dealing with it is to open that Word document and knowing that it's not connected to the internet in any way, and type the message as I wish I could say it, however I want to say it, just so it's kind of my little therapy, my own piece of therapy.
Like journaling.
Yeah.
Well, you know, to kind of bring this home, Randy, the one question out of 2 that I have for you, and Todd, you can jump into if you have one. What do you think as a whole we can do as health and PE teachers to change, to become more relevant and valued in schools?
The relevancy piece is really, really easy. I mean, it's really easy. You just have to look and see what society is craving, what they're literally dying of, and what they need. And we are the owners of that. So that the keynote that I did at Seven Springs there about the opportunity, not this year, but last year, is just that. I feel like we may be missing an opportunity, and that opportunity is teaching people how to take care of themselves and live well and self-care and be college, career, and life ready and thrive in life. And so I think we're missing that opportunity, and that's it. That's it right there. Now that's my thoughts. That doesn't, you know, there's a lot of people that I've run across that think I and Slippery Rock are wrong about this. But for example, Jess, you were talking about, you know, the master's degree exercise science. My daughter recently hurt her ankle, and we were in urgent care, and the free advertisements that run on the TV, you know, there's prompts and stuff. It was all stuff that people should know. And I'm sitting there thinking, why does someone need to learn this in a doctor's office? This is stuff, you know, it's how to beat diabetes. It's how to beat coronary heart disease. It's how to reduce your stress and your anxiety. It's how to, you know, all of these things. I'm thinking, wow, this should be very common knowledge to people. This should be the same as what they have common knowledge in terms of math and writing skills. It should be that. And then getting people to enjoy that. But that's what I think is the future and the opportunity that we have. That's why I think everyone's flocking to exercise science right now, because they've figured out they're going to try and change the behavior. And one of our calls to action is we want to create the behavior. We want to create a behavior that doesn't have to be changed. And the place that we can do that is schools. And how we can do that is by empowering the students to enjoy physical activity and be a part of it, and reflect on how they feel after that. But yeah, so where the message gets lost sometimes is because in Pennsylvania, we certify health and PE teachers. So when we say that our message is about the health and wellness, PE teachers think, well, then you don't do any PE. You just do traditional health and PE. And that's not what we mean. What we mean is the physical part of it is just the vehicle to get somebody to be healthy and well. It's just a vehicle to get there. So there are a lot of vehicles to get there. But the why is about people being healthy and well. And I have yet to run across an administrator, a parent, anybody who's not a health and phys ed teacher. And when I explain this program to them, they don't just shake their head and say, oh, yes, we need that in our world. You know, we need that in our society. It's some practicing health and phys ed teachers. And I understand why. They've been trained, same as you were and Todd was and I was. We've been trained a certain way. And it was ingrained in us at Slippery Rock, right, Jess? This is the way you do it. And
well, I think one of the things too, though, is as a professional in anything, and I don't care if you're a teacher, an accountant, or whatever you are, if you're not seeking out change and you're not seeking out how to be better every day, then you're missing it. Because honestly, like, I mean, if I taught the same way I did my first year of teaching now in my 22nd year of teaching, like, I wouldn't be a good teacher. And I mean, you know, you need to seek it out. And I think that, and one of the school board member that was on our school board a couple of years ago, he was kind of putting some pressure on us about what we were doing. And he said to me, he's like, he was a dentist, and he said, listen, I started my dental practice in 1975. Do you think if I practiced dentistry the same way now as I did in 1975, I would have any patients? And honestly, that really stuck out with me, because I remember the dentist in 1975. They didn't wear gloves. I had washed her hands, and then she stuck bare hands in my mouth.
I should say,
I'm putting my hands at the camera right now.
I should say that I feel like maybe I've talked a little bit negative in terms of practicing health and phys ed teachers, but when we go out to schools and we talk to teachers and we talk about what we're doing, majority of them, the hedgehog, three circles, they get passionate. They see the opportunity. Majority of them clearly see it. It's just a few who I think went into this because they wanted to be coaches. And they went into this with a sport mindset and thought, well, I can do this and teach sports and coach and do this. But most teachers, when you explain it to them this way, and they think, I can teach that way, I can teach towards, they get passionate about it. They really do. It's just someone telling them it's okay to do this. It's okay. We want you to do it this way.
I believe you're onto something, because through my own experience, I mean, like I said, you inspired me to, and we actually wrote out stay fit in their postgraduate life as the theme of everything that we wrote when we revamped our curriculum. And in that time, since we've done it, and I've gotten to share it with school board members and community members and even other teachers in other schools, the number of people that say, I've had one person dissent and say, you know what, that's really not the way it should be. He actually said you should have dodgeball, which was amusing. Just for fun. But 100% of those people, other than him, 100% of those people were going, I wish I had that when I was in school.
Right. Exactly. That's the response you get overwhelmingly. Yep.
And you're hearing that too with administrators and teachers.
Overwhelmingly. Everybody. Yep. Everybody. Yep.
You know, and even in my own experience, our students, the feedback, we're just finishing up the first semester of our brand new curriculum, and our student feedback is, thank you for this. Like, we're so thankful that you're doing it this way now. And
yep. We have a student, and I'll leave the school district unnamed, but we have a recent student who graduated from this program that got a job in a tough school that had a very traditional PE program, and she went in with this program, and she continually emails me the comments from her students, and they absolutely love it. They're doing the same thing. They're, thank you for giving us what we wanted and what we needed.
That's awesome.
That is so great, and that's what we really need. So I feel like the next step is what you're doing is wonderful at the collegiate level, and I hope it spreads to other programs across the country. I feel like the next step is how do we share this with how do we continue to share this with the working professionals, so that, you know, like I guess my age category is what I'm speaking about. I've been 22 years in. I was trained in the old way. Personally, I've seeked it out, but there's, like you say, there's really not much out there. If you go even Google it, there's really not much out there. So what are your thoughts on what we can do to help the people who are 20 years in that still have a good 15 to go to make a difference in the profession?
So a couple thoughts, and I think Jess has this in her head as well in terms of the state organization. So at Slippery Rock, what we want to do is create a school wellness summit, because our what we feel is our reach is Western Pennsylvania. That's really our area of influence, where we want to have Western Pennsylvania all in on this. So we have strategically been working slowly with a couple schools, Slippery Rock, Deer Lakes. We're trying to get those to become our model programs, and then we'll just keep branching out further and further. But regional, little one-day regional conferences that are designed around innovation, doing new things, doing different things, being about the student, being about the student's health and wellness, self-care, well-being. I know Jess is working with something in Altoona. I know Cranberry's having one. Right. What day is it?
February 15th, day after Valentine's Day.
And I know Cranberry's having one. Have they got a hold of you?
No.
Okay, they're having one too, and they've asked me to come up and speak to that, and I think
That's
maybe
awesome.
Anna might try to go. So I think that idea of what they did up in Erie County is just continue to have these. Now, if the state association comes out with new standards, that would give a huge opportunity to link this to those new standards and say, hey, let's all start fresh. Let's everybody start fresh. We have new standards. If the standards go the way they had been going, Jess, it would be linked to more of this model.
Right.
And it would be an opportunity to get many more teachers on board. But I think right now what's worked for us is just these little one-day workshops or conferences like they had in Erie County, and what Altoona is going to try to do and Cranberry's doing, where people get excited. They don't go and just get the same old, here's a new game. Yeah, you don't need a new game. Right? Don't need a new game. There's plenty of games out there. You can Google games. You can find every game you ever possibly wanted to play. I think if the idea is about innovation, about new ideas, and it's about ideas, teachers get excited about that.
Yeah.
I think health and phys ed teachers have lost some. I wouldn't say, but some have lost their calling. They've lost what is my calling? What am I here for? And am I really making a purpose in life? And when you deliver something like this, a concept like this, I think it excites them. I hope it excites them.
It's tough, because I have friends that teach in different school districts, and the climate of schools a lot of times for our departments and what we do isn't the best. And it's year to year. You worry about, is this position going to be cut? Am I going to have a job next year? So there's a lot of factors that play into, what we're all dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But
just the fact that they're now asking my wife to teach K-7. How in the world do you teach K-7?
I can't imagine coming home at the end of the day after having kindergartners and seventh graders in the same day. Like
set up, back and forth. It's just two gyms.
And I know that unfortunately is a norm. It's that's not. It's happening more and more often. And it's, I've had a few emails since I've started this position from people who I know are phenomenal teachers, excellent teachers that are cut or that are taking on class loads like that. And it's a reality. So, it's, I think the way to slowly start to combat that is through the advocating. And I think we have a lot of administrators who have gone through these old school programs, and they're not ingrained with what their health and phys ed teachers are doing. And so a lot of them are doing really great things,
right? But
they're cutting that on a test score and this is what phys ed is, and we're not going to need this. So yeah, that's
honestly what I find when I go out, when I talk to our community members, their experience of what we do, last high school experience, their idea of what we do, I should say, is their last high school experience. And if they came from a program where it was dodgeball and basketball every day, they think that's what we do before I say a word. So, right. And unfortunately, many times it's superintendents, it's administrators, it's principals. And I think we have to do as phys ed teachers a better job advocating for ourselves. And quite frankly, one of the things we said when we put this thing forward, there was some resistance at first before we did it. And I said, look, let us try it. And then give us feedback. Don't give us feedback before we try it, but also, give us a chance. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but.
Hey, Todd, your question originally there was, what we can do for the practicing teachers, the current teachers and stuff. And I failed to mention something I thought was a great idea, was that thing you had this summer. Mm-hmm. I think, my wife was there, my brother was there, and so the three of us got to talk a little bit more about it. And it wasn't traditional, especially the guy that kicked it off. Mm-hmm. Wasn't traditional in any manner. And that was, my wife and I left after that to head for vacation. We talked a good 2 hours about things that she could do that were completely different of what she's ever thought about doing. So, yeah, I think it's got to be less of the same old thing and more of something different, something new. and to make people think. Because she also said, well, you know, that wouldn't work for me, or I wouldn't do that, or I couldn't do. So it makes you think about, think about why I wouldn't do that. Not just because I don't want to do that, but it just wouldn't work for me, but this would work. So yeah.
I think that'll lead me to wrap up with a question here. One of the things that when I first heard you speak and I got to know you a little bit better, I was happy to hear that you were very much like me, because about 10 years ago, I quit reading phys ed journals and really focused on education journals, because my thoughts were, until they changed the number of muscles in the body or bones or the rules of some game, which I can probably Google, I probably don't need to read too much. I mean, I skim, but I really focus on educational practice and being a teacher, not just a phys ed teacher. Tell us a little bit about what led you to seeking those types of readings out in books and business people and so on. And
so that it started with that happenstance meeting with a buddy of mine that we biked across Pennsylvania together, and we biked from DC to Pittsburgh, but I had I met him. He invited me down to this think tank group of people he works with that helped him be highly successful. And they led me through a series of books. And the second book, Simon Sinek.
A few of them, so that can you tell us?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the first one, and these went in order. And sometimes I feel bad that I haven't expressed this to people when I talk about the books. This order was purposely given to us by this group because it goes in order of what we were trying to accomplish. So the first one was good to great. How do you take something and make it from being good to great? In our case, we were taking something that maybe wasn't so good. I mean, our program was, but in general, maybe not. So that was that one. So then the next one was, once you figure out your 3 circles, your hedgehog, from the Good to Great book, you need to know why. You need to start with that. And that's Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And with a little side note, real quick story on this one. Someone gave me that book when I became department chair in May of 2011. It was in my mailbox with a little note, good luck. I still to this day don't know who gave me that book. But here I am talking about reading books, Todd. I put that on a shelf and said, yeah, I don't know, whatever that means. I put it over on a shelf. And then I would go and meet these guys who are really good thinkers, guys and ladies who are really good thinkers. And they tell me about this book. I need to read this book. I'm like, I already have that book. Well, have you read it? Nope. But I have now. Repeatedly read it now.
That's great.
So then that reading Simon Sinek's book led me to a lot of different people. Led me to Seth Godin. Led me to a lot of different things. Then the next book after that was Reinvention, and how to reinvent yourself. So we'd figured out what we wanted, what we were passionate about, what we could be good at, what society needed. What society needed became our why. So we learned about how to start with why, and everything becomes about why then. I mean, to the principle. You got to have very few principles and be centered on those principles. Don't get sidetracked down rabbit holes. Be centered on that principle. So then how to reinvent yourself. Then the next book was Change, how you actually switch, by the Heath brothers, from Stanford. So how do you make that switch from being one thing to this new thing? And then the last one was Passion. How do you bring that up circle and be passionate about it? So our goal wasn't, when we come to work every day, we are excited to come to work. Like, we are doing something, we're building something, we're doing something purposeful, and we're excited and passionate about it. So those were the books that led us there. But the stuff I'm reading now, well, not right now, but the stuff I'd been spending the last year and a half reading was because of you and Alex Slezak and the folks at Carnegie Mellon. And it's all this recreating learning and recreate. So it's George's books and all the books that of the people that are linked to him and from him. So yeah, I've been doing that and trying to pair. So I then try to pair that information with our discipline and create students who are ready to rebuild the health and wellness of society through schools.
Yeah.
So then the last few things I've been reading are about social and emotional health and wellness, because I'm teaching a class on that. So I've spent the last 3 months reading a lot of books on health or social and emotional health and wellness.
Well, I mean, we all know teachers, you're always a student. You may be a teacher, but you are first and foremost always a student. And continuing to learn is, I mean, it's in our job description.
I would echo what Todd said there, though. one of the things I learned from that group that led me on this book series, one of the things they told me was to get out of your educational and your professional silo. Purposefully get out of it, because you're going to hear the same thing over and over and over. So you need to get out of it. You need to read different things. You need to talk to different people. So they actually said, don't follow anything on Twitter. Don't follow anything on Facebook. You just don't look or listen to those people, because you're just going to regenerate the same thought.
Yeah.
I've purposely tried to do that too. Just get out of that silo and learn from other people. And it's funny when you do that, you will learn quickly what people need. It is so obvious to me now of what our profession could or should be about. As soon as I got out of that silo and stopped listening to the same people say the same stuff and listen to what other people's. But it's tough to get out of that silo, because that's what we do. That's, we thrive on it. We thrive on hearing the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
So I have you to thank for a lot of those books, Todd. A lot of that stuff I'm reading. Yeah.
Well, thanks. We all learn from each other, and I appreciate that I was able to share with you, because I think I've equally learned from you as much as maybe you've learned from me. So, by the way, like the most awesome guest ever, first day, drinking tea out of a beer
Yes,
stein.
I was going to close with, this was not beer. I did want to make it. This is peach tea. Yeah, peach tea.
People might think that's the magic formula to getting somewhere, is drinking beer while doing a podcast or a movie.
Getting those antioxidants from the tea.
Right, absolutely.
Major in Slippery Rock tomorrow because the professor seems cool.
I want to learn from that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I drink out of that too. Anyway, Jess,
well, Randy, thank you so much for joining. I learned from you many years ago at Slippery Rock. It's been over 10 now, and I continue to. And for me, one of the best transitions that I've gotten to make in my professional career is going from a student to a teacher to now this executive director role, and seeing all of my former Slippery Rock professors that are involved at this level. I mean, you guys embody what a professional should be. So thank you for the continued lessons that I learned from you. And I'm so glad that you were able to be on for our first ever MOOC. So this is our first one. Todd, you want to introduce our second next week and the Twitter chat and wrap it up?
Yep. So Twitter chat will be on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We will come on, follow the hashtag InnovateHPE. And we'll have 5 or 6 questions to throw out there. Also, for any of you who registered at psafer.org, we will send out blog topics for you. So we'll ask that you blog about what maybe you heard something tonight in the MOOC with Randy that tickled you and you want to write about, or maybe we'll have some questions as well that you can expand on some of the things that we discussed tonight. And I would ask that you share your blogs to the hashtag InnovateHPE. You can post them to Facebook or Twitter. We'll follow you. We'll check them out. And we'll probably even comment and respond. We'd love to hear it. If you're not sure how to get a blog, WordPress.com is a great place to start, or Google's eBlogger. I personally think WordPress is a little bit easier, but we'd love to see what you have to say about tonight, and send us your thoughts, because honestly, this stuff is very much philosophical, and it's great to collaborate and learn from each other. As Randy and Jess and I spoke with each other, I think we've all learned from each other at one point or another. And there's nobody on this podcast tonight that's all knowing. So we'd love to hear from you as well, because I think many of you probably have some things to say and things to share. So 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time will be on Twitter. Hashtag InnovateHPE. The first question will go up at 8. Please join us. And next week, 8 o'clock Monday night, we will have Annette Facera from Conestoga Valley. She'll be on talking about how innovatively she is connecting health education in the classroom to wellness councils. That's pretty fascinating. She's doing some really interesting stuff down there at Conestoga Valley. And when I heard about that project where she's connecting wellness councils to health education classrooms and curriculum, I had to talk to her. So she's a phenomenal guest, and she'll be on next week, and we hope you'll join us same time here. We'll tweet it out as always. And for Randy Nichols and Jessica Picconi-Cook, thanks so much for being with us tonight, and we can't wait to see you again.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.